Hey guys, it's Dan from Nevada System. We're here to go over the top standalone portable DJ systems in 2025. Now, most of these came out in 2024, but again, they've made a lot of changes in the last couple months, and we're gonna see that after all these changes, giving each one at least 6 months in use, which one should you pick up and which one is better left on the shelf. All right, so let's get into it. We're gonna define standalone first. What's the criteria that we're gonna use to be included? 1. Standalone. Doesn't have to connect to a laptop. Again, if you want this, you probably have reasons why, but just off the top of my head, it's always great to have a standalone system. You don't have to worry about bringing your laptop into the club, onto a gig, having drinks spilled on it. Your standalone piece gets messed up, boom, you replace it. You don't have to worry about the data. 2, we want it to be carryable. So I know we got a really big range from folks that, came up in the vinyl days, carried the crates uphill both ways, to folks that are carrying a laptop around. Pick an arbitrary number, we'll say 20 pounds. And then 3, the simplest criteria of all, we want it to be able to mix one track into another track. So no bells and whistles. You just got to be able to do the basics to make it into this competition. So here are the top 3 picks that everyone has kind of been interested in. First, we got kind of the originator within the last couple years that really created a lot of buzz for this segment, right? Denon came out of nowhere. They put together the Denon Prime Go. And it was just a form factor that we hadn't really seen a lot before, certainly not in recent times, right? They've come out with the Prime Go Plus, which adds a bit of battery life, adds some extra Amazon music services, and we're gonna see whether the update is everything that it was hyped up to be. Second, we got the Newmark Mixstream Pro Go. Now, that's a long as hell name. The original Mixstream Pro was a great deal, didn't come with a battery. This one comes with a battery. So we're gonna take a look at that one as well. And then third, finally, the one that everyone's asking for, it's the Alpha Theta Pioneer DJ Omnis-Duo. It made an earlier in-depth video on this one, but wanted to put it in there and see how it stacks up against everyone else. So again, if you're a record box person, this is kind of the only option for you, so it depends on how married to that ecosystem you are. Finally, we're going to talk a bit about dark horses. Now, people always say you have a power station. There's always someone out there that says that you have a Jackery, you have a power station, anchor, whatever. Anything can be a standalone, which technically is true, but do you want to be carrying a XDJ AZ, a soundbox, a Jackery, all that up a mountain? Probably not. Right, so we'll take a look at this briefly. There's some good points. There's some that I'm not too certain about, but we'll take a look at it together. Now, we're also going to talk a bit about the different use cases. I'll go into them as we go through the different pieces. But again, if you don't have a battery-powered standalone, here's some things you might use it for. You could be going to a small club or bar gigs where, the venue doesn't have backline. And again, depending on where you are in your journey, that might make sense. And being able to bring it is going to give you a lot more bargaining power than saying, hey, I want you to rent XYZ things and whatnot. You're not a big name. You don't have a technical rider. That's just kind of that's the facts of the world, right? Also, you got event, mobile, corporate DJs. Always nice to have a faster setup and strike time. You got mixed set performers. Again, you want to have someone on vocals. You want to have a stringed instrument going in on a mic, play a backing set, be a one-man show. Unlocks a lot of potential. And then finally, again, you have hobbyists, which are probably the biggest segment out of everyone buying stuff in this price range, right? So not gonna leave any of y'all behind. We'll go over that as well. Now, there's a couple of good reasons to go with standalones instead of controllers. I'm gonna go through them pretty quickly. If you clicked on this, you probably know what you want. But if you're still undecided, let me give you a couple reasons. 1, someone spills something on your standalone. It's damaged. If you're doing production work, if you have any other stuff that you're doing on your laptop, you don't have to worry, right? Send it off to warranty, buy a new standalone. You don't have to do data recovery. You don't have to worry about your laptop. You don't have to worry about, different pieces in the chain breaking. Second, less likely to crash, right? You don't want to have a Windows update, Mac update, mid of your set. Just fewer things to worry about. And then finally, 3, you don't have a screen between you and your audience. Again, this is something that, it's up to you, right? We've seen huge names on stage with a laptop, with different various controllers. So again, it's, can you have good audience interaction without a standalone? Like, absolutely, right? There's no piece of gear that is a must or essential. But again, there is value to it, and you just got to decide how much value that holds for you, right? And then also there's good reasons to have a battery too, right? So we talked about standalone. Now, why do we want to have a battery? One, it's faster to set up, faster to strike, fewer cords to trip on. Again, you don't get the full benefit unless you go, fully into this kind of wireless ecosystem, but a cord less is a cord less. You got to gaffer tape all this stuff down. Again, it's one less cord to tape down. There's benefits to that when you're doing a couple gigs a month, right? And then again, less stuff to haul around. You could have a power station. Now you don't have to worry about that, right? You could run a 50-foot line to main power. Now you don't have to worry about that, right? And that heavy gauge power cord, that takes up a lot of space. It's kind of a pain to wind up too, right? Anyways, let's get right into it. I think we're gonna start off the first one with a piece that I'm certainly excited about. Let me just quickly grab it so I can show all of you. All right, so this is the Denon Prime Go Plus. Don't forget the plus, I guess. Y'all know because it's gray. This thing is absolutely fantastic, right? And when I said that, it absolutely created a new form factor for hardware. And there were a lot of questions about, like what's the use of this when it first came out? They used a lot of influencer type video where people are, playing on the train, playing on the plane, like busting out a quick set. Again, yeah, sure, it's fun. And I think, again, Omnis-Duo went kind of the same way for influencer stuff. But this is actually a very robust, workable piece of gear, right? It is not a toy. It has XLRs, RCA, got the booth output, ins. You can run 2 XLRs to it. It does have some weaknesses where you cannot put effects on the XLR ins, right? So that is something that you have to accept, and it runs on an engine. And I think that everyone that's been in the hobby a while has had their gripes with engine, right? If you are a Denon diehard, you know that there are issues with engine. It's kind of bothersome to arrange your library. It does not convert cleanly from Rekordbox when people say you can plug a USB in, have no problems. Yeah, you're gonna have problems, right? But aside from that, it streams Beatport, it streams BeatLink, SoundCloud, Tidal, Amazon Music. It was great before, and it is really great now, right? It's solid, it's heavyweight, it's metal, feels good, has plastic parts. It's not the MSP, right? It's as far as standalone portable, this is kind of the best build quality out of the entire crowd. Now, let me caveat that. That's build quality for feel, right? I know that, just talking to folks and, myself as well, people have had issues with the tempo faders. The original Pro Go, the black one, had to send that back for warranty. And yeah, just being real, InMusic it will take longer to service Denon stuff than Pioneer stuff, and you will have a harder time finding someone to do it. But that being said, it's a great piece, feels really good. Couple of quirks about it that I want to point out. The EQs are on horizontals. I wouldn't be too concerned about that as, whatever industry standard, right? Like 10, 15 years ago, you had all kinds of wacky, Wix mixers, ways things were set up, like before the whole market collapsed, right? And people did not have that much trouble going from one to another in a given night, right? It was part of finding your feet. First 10, 15 minutes, boom, you're done. So if you're kind of new to this and you're thinking, what if I get this thing that's not industry standard and it just screws me for the next like 10 years? No, like the barriers are a lot lower to learn minor things like that than you might think, right? So great things that I want to point out. You can do the effects on the knobs. Everything maps to a hardware control. A lot of the things that, people had concerns with for the original Prime, Denon has done a pretty good job on, right? So I complained a lot before about volume faders. The VU meters used to only hit on the master. Now you got a little option where you can go and set them up so that you're not mixing blind into a track, right? You know how loud it's gonna come in on. So you see stuff like that, like the new stem unlock for, one-time paid $10, where it's, Denon is doing a pretty good job poking weird janky features. You might use them, you might not use some of them, right? You got things like Philips Hue bulb and like lighting integration that, you know, I guess there are people out there that are going to use it. I don't use it, but it's out there for you. I think the one thing to keep in mind is that you got to look at each of these features one by one and say, you know, does this do anything for me? If it doesn't do anything for you, forget it, right? It doesn't matter that they're doing it. But the nice thing to take away is that Denon does work on their stuff, right? So it's pretty cool. Aside from that, like I mentioned before, effects cannot go on the mic channels. So if you're looking to get one of these for a backing track kind of setup where you're performing with live instruments, you want to save the pedals, that's not going to work, right? But aside from that, pound for pound, if you are ecosystem agnostic, or, you know, even if you have, let's say you have a club setup and then you want to just do a couple of smaller gigs and you don't mind converting over, let's say like 10-15% of your library, you're not going to play every single track in your library when you go out. Right? That's kind of the approach that I take it. You know, I'm unabashedly a record box simp, but this thing is great. I love it. It feels good. It's more reliable than the Omnis-Duo. And you know, for $1,000 new or $600 or $700 for the older one, the value is absolutely insane, right? I was talking to another DJ recently, and he was saying like, you know, with all the price increases, there's really nothing that you can point to and be like, that's not overpriced. And I'm like, you know, hold up, like the Prime Go, there's no way the Prime Go is overpriced, right? Like you compare it to entry-level stuff like a Flex 4 where you got to connect it to a laptop and the whole thing is like janky and plastic. It's like $400. I mean, you go up to like a DDJ 800, you know, that's nearly the price of a Prime Go. And it's pretty much a glorified MIDI controller, right? So I think we got to acknowledge like, yes, record box is convenient. If you're playing in clubs, record box is hella convenient, but we pay the markup for it. You definitely pay the markup for it. And to get all of this in $1,000, you know, package that has been tested and iterated on for the last couple years, that is really exciting stuff. I have more Pioneer stuff than I have Denon stuff, but I'm like, damn, man. I really hope that Denon keeps going hard like this to put some pressure on Pioneer, right? Because otherwise we just get sky-high prices and no innovation to speak of. And this is, you know, this device, if you haven't tried it, again, I'm ranting here, but try to get your hands on one, borrow one from a friend. It is just a joy to use. The screen looks great. The battery lasts the advertised time. Controls are responsive. It's just, you know, this is an amazing piece, all right? And again, guys, you know, I'm not sponsored by anyone. You see the sub count, right? This ain't really nothing, right? So again, not sponsored by anyone. I own stuff on both sides of the aisle, and this is just a great device. I can't underscore it anymore. Let's talk about the next one, which is the Mixstream Go Pro. Now, the original version of this, which I did pick up, I'll show you some quick footage here. This didn't have a battery. And it was dirt cheap, right? It was the value, like the power for what you get was insane, like when it dropped, because it was, I think, $600 retail, and it was going on Amazon warehouse for something like $300-400. That's the same price as a DDJ 400 or a Flex 4, right? With that, you got XLR outs, you got RCAs, you got booth, you know, you got the double USDAs, you got nice for a changeover, you're going back to back, you know, that's always sweet. You got all the other stuff that Engine has, because this is on the exact same setup as all of Denon's stuff, right? It's all using Engine, right? If you didn't know, all under InMusic, that's why. Right? So it was pretty crazy cheap back in the day. And I remember thinking, damn, there's no way you got one box that's 300-400 used and it does all this, right? And then they went and slapped a battery into it. And now it's the price is a lot closer to the Prime Go, which makes it a little weird. Right, so it's $840 new. You want to buy the old model? That's still around. Probably find it on Reverb. You know, $400 maybe. Slap a battery around it with a tripod or like a little bag hanging off, whatever. Right. But we're gonna talk about the current version. This is kind of an iffy one, right? It's on paper the technicals look great, right? You even got the double USB that the Prime Go doesn't have. So yeah, it looks good on paper. The unfortunate part, and this is just what it is, right? The unfortunate part is that the build quality really is not great. Now, You got those big, fancy, nice jog wheels. You know, if you want to be scratching, they're flimsy, man. There's wobble to them, right? The unit flexes when you move it. And for me, the first day, all right, first day that I got it, little stickers on the jog wheel started peeling off. Came loose in the bag, faders kind of going, knobs weren't great. So again, send that one back. I don't know. 2 units in, I'm like, yeah, the second unit's better. Like, jog wheel stickers didn't come off, but kind of get the sense that they're delivering a certain build quality within a range. Now, at 600 bucks, that was okay, right? Like, you're getting insane values on paper, right? Like, for what you were getting. Now it's 160 bucks less than the Prime Go. So you really just got to ask yourself, right? There's distinct things that are good, right? There's good or different, right? You got the effects paddles. They toggle off like a battle mixer. I would say that's by taste. I don't think that's good or bad. You got the speakers. Now, if you're thinking those speakers are going to be enough for your house party, they are not going to be enough for your house party unless your house party is crammed into a single dorm room. They are not loud. I don't have a great way for you to quantify that, but please go hear them if you're buying them with the thought of not having to use speakers, because you will have to get speakers. I think they would have been better off just leaving the speakers off. You can probably play a couple tunes on the sofa if you want to chill out, practicing. Again, the speakers are kind of nice then, right? You want to just chill, but if you wanted to practice on the sofa, you could just do it in your headphones too. So it's a tricky one there. I'm really not giving them too many points for the sofa speakers. And again, if you really care about it, it does have the EQ and more standard vertical setup. I don't give a lot of points for that, but I would say the biggest draw for this is, you're gonna scratch. You want the bigger jog wheels. You don't care too much about the build quality because this unit will flex, pots wobble, sliders, faders don't feel great, but it's available. It's an option if you really, really want the big jog wheels. And that's the only thing in my mind that could justify this. And then finally, the Omnis-Duo. Now, suppose I'm betraying my verdict a little bit, but if you saw my previous video, I am not a huge fan of this. Now, it comes in at $1,500. You got amazing Pioneer residuals, so you are not buying it for much cheaper than that, even on the used market. You got professional outputs, you got XLRs, you got RCAs, you have one USB. Again, same problem as the Prime Go. It's gonna be troublesome for back-to-back, but you have your one USB and you have your SD card. The OS, it'll take your record box stuff, but again, this is not the same OS that the club standard uses, right? So a couple of key things to call out here. Your effects. You must use the touchscreen to control, assign, and manipulate your effects. Let me say that again. You have to use the touchscreen. This is gonna be the biggest make or break thing, I would say, for most people, because the whole idea behind using a good robust controller is having, right, function per knob, right? You don't want to be going into screens while you're sweaty. You're in a sweaty, uncontrolled environment. The unit feels good. It doesn't flex. It's robustly made. The build quality feels good. That's not to say the firmware or the software quality is good. I got stuck in a loop where I had to send it back for warranty after 6 months. It had multiple crashes on me. And again, as we go through time, the firmware will get better. But we're a year into launch. So it's a question of how much instability are you willing to tolerate? And again, just, reading from comments of people who also bought this, some people have issues and some haven't, right? And I would say that that's probably the same for a lot of Pioneer stuff, right? I was looking through some of the return reports for the latest AZ unit, and we're seeing like fairly high incident rates from folks that I'm pulling data from, right? So we're looking at something like 10 to 15% of units sent out in volume. Sample of 500-600 is pretty significant, right? 10-15% of that. Again, not all huge issues, right? Not the unit won't turn on. It could be things like jog wheels are having issues, or like XYZ is not responding. But I think it is important to consider that what you're buying is what you're getting, right? You're hoping that it gets better, but we got to work with what we're getting for now. So something to think about. The Bluetooth features on the Omnis-Duo, not great. The speakers that you can connect with, you do have to have a dongle flops around. I wasn't thrilled about that. And it restricts you to only buying alpha theta speakers, right? Whereas, there are third-party solutions out there for wireless Bluetooth latency-free transmission. And they'll probably run you $200-300 last time I checked. But if you want it, that is something that is available. And if Alpha Theta is not giving it to us without the dongle, doing something, I would argue, much more sensible, like building it into the unit, what are you really getting? The other Bluetooth feature, streaming a song in, you got to do this in real time. So unless you're going to stream the entire song in and then play it, you're not going to find it too useful. And I would say that, I didn't find it useful. I think most folks, even in initial reviews, didn't find it useful. So it's kind of a feature looking for a problem right now. Now, certainly, a couple of pluses. You can put effects on the mic channel. That's a big plus if you need, this to play backing tracks, you want to run effects through your instrument. 2, you got 8 pads instead of 4. Again, that's kind of nice. Depends how you set up your tracks, right? For me, 4, I'm good with 4, right? I'm not hungry for the 8. And then 3, it's Rekordbox. Most of us have our library organized in Rekordbox, our hotkey set up in Rekordbox. That's a big plus. Honestly, probably the only reason to even consider this one. I would say if you're an engine person, what are you still doing here? Like, go to one of the first 2 options and pick that. You're free. You're not a hostage like the rest of us. I mean, it is what it is, right? Again, the last 4th good thing I can think of. It loads fast, right? This is not an exec. You throw the track in, boom, it's there, right? It's nice, but it's not like the other 2 load super slow either. I would say, and this is the most caveated recommendation ever, but buy it if you really, really need Rekordbox and you don't want to haul a Jackery around. Because if you are willing to hold a little 8-pound box, I cannot think of a reason why you would not pay an extra $500 and get an RX2. It is infinitely better. RX2, RX3 for another $800, infinitely better than this unit. I would rather haul around a portable battery pack than have to use touchscreens and effects pretty much any day with the horrendous reliability of the Omnis-Duo. With that, let's go over standalones with the power option a bit. It is an option, but it's kind of a pain to carry around. It turns a small gig, where you could bid a lot more competitively because, you're quick in and out, turns a small gig into kind of a regular gig, right? You got to set up power, you're hauling more stuff in, might be, an extra trip to the car. Again, sounds dramatic, right? But you got to take it from the perspective of, what does standalone and battery let me do? And if I go this route, can I still do it? And again, I would say it really only makes sense if you're stuck in the Pioneer ecosystem because, as a Denon user, between the Prime Go and the Mixstream Pro, you have 2 pretty good options with 2 distinct form factors. You got, small as you can get, and then you got, big-ish, reasonable-ish with battery. I think Denon's offering a lot here, like a lot of options to pick from. I guess as usual, right? Pioneer, you're owned by the Pioneer ecosystem. You take what you can get, like the rest of us. I'm sure some of you are thinking, this is a very Denon biased position, and I'm like, no, again, the majority of stuff I own is Pioneer. Folks are curious, comment down below. I will show you my setup in the next video, right? Use it both for some production work, tracking, and then also just to play at home. But I do have a lot of Pioneer stuff. I am not particularly a Denon fanboy, but when it comes to battery power standalones, I cannot honestly give any conclusion other than that Denon just straight up humiliated Pioneer on this one. Like, the Omnis-Duo looks like a man trying to fight his way out of a wet cardboard box and failing. Yeah, the Omnis-Duo is looking like it would lose to a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest. This is not a particularly impressive offering from Pioneer. Now, there's one last option that I want you to think about. A lot of fun, algorithm DJ. Again, yes, it is an iOS app. Yes, it is a subscription, but you're going to be pairing it with a really, really cheap controller, right? You could run a MIDI fighter twister. You could run any of the reloop stuff, a couple $100, and it opens up a lot of possibilities. This is the hands down lightest, easiest setup you might ever use. Is it robust? bust? I've had some issues, but it's fun, and you're always gonna have a backup, right? It's great for multi-performer mix sets where you can, fill in transitions, something goes wrong, you just jam on the keys a bit while you're restarting stuff. You can do some mic work, right? There's always a plan, a backup for the plan, but it's a lot of fun. You give it a try. Now, am I saying it should replace your main setup? No, but hey, give it a shot. You might be surprised at where we are in 2025. All right, so that's my take on the 3 top options: the Denon Prime Go Plus, the Mixstream Pro Go, and the Omnis-Duo, as well as the 2 other dark horse options, right? Running your own power generator and plugging pretty much anything else in, as well as algorithm DJ. So a lot of stuff to play around with. Let me know what worked for you. Let me know if you have any other questions, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.